Oh, there we go. Hi all, and welcome to tonight's special show, An Evening with Thomas, a new series where I bring on members of the Truth, Honour and Integrity group and to tell their story on their life. And we look forward tonight to listen to our first guest, which is Ramona Helitha, and more commonly known as Rod on the page. And so we'll have her on after this music. Hi all, and welcome to An Evening with Thomas, and tonight's special guest, and the first one in this new series where we bring members of the Truth, Honour and Integrity on to tell their story and their journey and whatever they choose to talk about. And I'm sure at the end of the series we'll have covered many of the members that are on the page, and we'll all get to know each other better. So, as I said earlier, the first guest is Ramona Helitha, and I'm going to bring her on now and say hi. Hi, Ramona.
Hi, Thomas. Good evening, everyone. So good to be here.
Yes, sorry, there was I couldn't hear the first part. I thought I'd lost you. But no, I'm glad you're here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It wasn't you. And so, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and where you come from, and then we'll go into your story, which is interesting.
Okay. Originally, I am from Trinidad in the West Indies, in the Caribbean. So, born and raised there, got to the United States when I was around 15 in the 70s. And I was raised in a different setting, in a different culture. And a lot of it is very similar to the British culture, because that was one of the Commonwealth. Trinidad was one of the British Commonwealth.
Yes.
So I had a lot of similar upbringing, similar to yours. And then I come here, and everything is sort of opposite. And that set me, it seemed almost upside down. And that pretty much set me on a different stage of wondering, why don't these people see what's going on? And I went to high school here, and I learned, I think my history teacher pretty much set me on the course of this quote-unquote conspiracy stuff. I don't think he was supposed to tell us some of the things he did, but I think he was coming from his own frustrations. And he taught us about voting, and he said, don't vote. Do it once, but it's not worth it. And that's pretty much stuck in my head. And what was going on in the 70s really opened my eyes to different things, because a lot of it did not make sense to me as a teenager. And so that pretty much set the stage for me. And coming from that background where I had a lot of natural remedies and herbal therapies as part of my healing process and part of what we use as a culture, coming here and finding it completely opposite, again, put me in a different space altogether. And I wanted to hold on to my heritage. I wanted to hold on to that tradition of natural medicine. And so I pretty much set myself the idea that I'm going to learn natural medicine. And that down the road became my career. I pretty much joined here, I went to college, and I studied business. And the only reason I studied business is because I wanted to be self-employed, because I did not like the idea of working for someone. It just bothered me, because I did not like how I saw people being treated. And I've always felt that Americans were being treated poorly, but why can't they see that? And I think a lot of people who come to this country wonder why Americans don't see how poorly they're being treated, and it's really confusing. And I think that it's a good thing that there's an influx of foreigners, per se, who are willing to contribute to the society on a whole, as opposed to draining the society. I wanted to be a contributing part of this society. And so I pretty much set myself the idea that I was going to find some way to contribute back to the system and help these people see better. And it isn't that they're stupid. Americans are not by any means stupid. But I think I've come to find out that they were raised in a certain mindset to not trust themselves. And that became really very clear much later in my life, where people are taught how not to trust themselves. Yes. And that was mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. And so I feel a lot of compassion being here and the privilege of being able to contribute to that. And I feel like I have to do my share and become my best self so that I can give back to the system and not be a burden on the system. Yeah. So, I found you. I found THI in spring of last year. My friend told me about it. I believe she's also a member. And she told me, she said, you're going to like these people. They talk just the same way you do, and they have all the same ideas that you do. And I said, who are these people? And she told me, and she sent me the link, and I never looked back. So this is what brought me to this page. And I just love my THI family. That's it. I love you guys out there. It's the most awesome group of people that are so anxious to become awake that I'm so proud to be a part of this group. I'm very, very proud to be part of this TH family. I cannot say enough about what you've done and the drive that everyone has, the passion, and to just get it done. I really like that.
Good stuff.
So that's my story. That's my story, and I'm sticking to that part.
It sounds good enough to me. So, going back to Cosmic Voice, which was pre-THI, as I've mentioned it a few times on the show now, that I felt there was a need for people to start doing shadow work and the dealing with their inner sides. How would you describe shadow work?
For me, I would say shadow work is more of a personal journey. And I believe that it is true for everyone, that it's a personal journey. And the personal journey is inward, as opposed to looking outside for answers. The personal journey inward is about remembering. It's about remembering who you are. I used to have many, many discussions with my girlfriend on the phone late at night, 1 and 2 in the morning. We're up talking about what is this contract that they said we have. I do not remember signing a contract. I did not read a contract. And we would talk about it and laugh about it. And I said, if we find the person who made us sign this contract, they're dead meat. Because this contract is not making any sense. How do you make a contract and not give me a copy? And why would you make me sign a contract and I don't remember? It didn't make any sense at all. And so the more I did this journey work inward, and it's a long, slow journey. It's a long, slow process because, once again, we've been taught not to trust ourselves. And so it took a very long time, just little pieces here and little pieces there. So I believe the whole bit about shadow work is a personal journey inward. And the objective, not a goal, not a destination, the objective is to remember who you are. Yeah. That in itself is a lifetime of work. I used to think that we were searching for something, and we're not searching for anything. Right? We already have everything we need. I found that I already had all I need. It's just a question of revealing all of those things. It's opposite to what everyone has said, all the books have said. It's about remembering. A lot of some of the New Age people have talked about remembering, but it's not so much of an emphasis I found pushing the remembering, because it's a little bit tough to explain to someone about remembering without going through all the vows and the contracts and the foolishness that we've been hooked into. it's a big task. So it's a little tough explaining that. So it seems a little easier just to do the self-help thing. And it's not about, personally, I did not feel it's that much about self-help as much as it is remembering. It's a whole different focus. I believe that it is.
So would you say that doing the shadow work is different from the self-help work, or is it similar or the same?
I think that it's a little the self-help work is different. I personally think it's different in a lot of ways. In some ways, it's similar. The similar part is that you're sorting and you're looking and you're digging and you're searching and you're driven and you want to find out what is going on in your life and you're feeling like something is missing. But I find self-help work, and I've done so much self-help work. I used to have a room full of books. When I get mad at people, when people would peeve me off for whatever, instead of getting even with them, I would go and buy a book. So I had a lot of books. I had a room full of books. And one day I looked at my room and I thought, you're pissed off a lot. You have a lot of books. That's how much people just peeve you off to no end, because you have a room full of books and tapes, and I had to stay out of the bookstore at times because it was always about finding a new book and finding a new book, and they've got you on the hook buying books. And so the similarity, I believe, is the sorting. But the whole self-help industry, to me, what I've come to find out, getting settled down into the shadow work, is it's busy work. It's busy work, looking outside yourself, trying to make ends of information connect and make sense. And the difference is that the shadow work is quietness. It's stillness. It's beingness. It's not about looking, sorting, this little piece here and that tape there, and this other person has a new book and a new tape. Oh my gosh, must have that one. No, it's different. Shadow work is stillness. It's shutting down. It's turning off. It's tuning out and getting into a quiet, still place. One of my favorite Bible verses, and I'm not a big Bible person, but there are parts of the Bible I do resonate with. And one of my favorite Bible lines is, "Be still and know," which is Psalm 46:10. And I started a prayer group called Be Still. That's it. It's just stop the chatter, stop the monkey mind, credit to Carolyn Myth. Stop the monkey mind and just be still. Okay. And you will find what you're looking for, because everything you're looking for, you already have. You already have what you're looking for. Yeah, and we have been taught that we need, just like you've said so many times, I need a new phone. I've got to get the new latest whatever. I've got to upgrade the car and upgrade everything. Upgrade the spouse sometimes. People upgrade the spouse. This one isn't good enough for me, so let me go find a new spouse. Let me have multiple ones. No, we don't need all of those things. Actually, I think the Asian culture have an ideal idea with the minimalization. Then you have minimalization. Less of everything is more, because then you have the energy flowing through your space. Yeah. And I started studying feng shui because of that, because I wanted to understand the flow of energy. And it wasn't so much about charging money or being a career or anything. It was just about my own space. It was about managing my own space. Then it came to my realization that my mom, and this is some of the things that I appreciate about cultures outside of the United States, my mom used to change furniture 2-3 times a year. And as a kid, I didn't understand. I'm thinking, why is she always moving things around? She's always changing things. I kind of like it the way it is. And I think intuitively, these people in the West Indies, she's never studied feng shui. But they know, because this is the tradition of what they've been taught, their parents, their grandparents pass on to them, that you need to circulate the energy all the time. And same thing with money. You need to circulate it, and you need to bless it before you give it out. And you need to rotate your garden. We used to have a backyard garden, and you need to rotate those things. And you need to pray to the ground and bless the seeds and bless the plants and everything before you do anything. And before you take it out, you bless it, and you bless the harvest, and you share. And so this is what I learned. And so here, studying some of the feng shui, I got to understanding how less is more.
Yeah.
Less is more. And we live in this environment where more is everything. And it's such a diverse contrast for some of us, especially, those of us who are empaths, to make peace with this. It's very difficult coming to terms with it because it's busy, go. And I know for me as an empath, it is totally overwhelming. Sometimes I have to totally subtract myself, not go anywhere, just stay home, don't even listen to radios or anything, just be home, just be away from people. Because the momentum for information now, as you've rightly said, because there's so much information, we're bombarded with so much, we almost feel, some people I think feel obligated to look at things and have to be in there. Oh my gosh, I'm going to miss something if I don't see this. And it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
And so I find that being quiet is so much easier to deal with. The stillness, the quietness.
The biggest thing people have forgotten is to listen to the body. Not just the...
yes.
The body tells you, the body tells you if you're tired, the body tells you if you're sick, the body tells you if you need something to eat or drink. And we get used to those things, but the body also tells you a whole heap more that you choose to ignore, and it's called intuition. And so when people are asking for, I'm not too sure about such and such a person who's on the alternative media, well, the fact that you've already the fact that you've asked means you're unsure yourself. So your own body's already told you that you're not trusting that person you're listening to. Now, too many people, and I've done it, we've all done it, I'm no different to anybody else, where we're looking for external confirmation on everything. We had a chat before, we were talking about disclosure, ET disclosure, and the answer is you already had it, otherwise you wouldn't be talking about ETs. But people always want that extra and the extra confirmation and a confirmation on top of a confirmation, and then it just goes on and on.
Yep.
And, when are you just going to come back to you, put it all back to yourself and go, you know what, I already know. Yes, I would like to find out some more of the hidden material that's obviously not being released. And there's been bits that have been put into our show, slowly but surely, little bits here and there. Otherwise it just becomes too much noise. So it's always better where you give people a chance to absorb the information, process it, and then be able to step forward.
Very true. I agree. That's very true. One of the other things that I think about are the kids. They're encouraged to be busy, constantly. There's always information, another tape, another CD. And I personally think that contributes to this whole thing about ADD and ADHD, and because they're not taught to be quiet. No. They don't know how to be still. They don't know how to be quiet. They don't know how to be kids. They're in overload. As a kid, my dad taught me to meditate at 9 years old. At 9 years old, he set me up, showed me how to set up a little altar in my room, and showed me how to put the candle, and taught me safety. And I had to meditate. And I did not want to sit still. I'm a 9-year-old kid. Yeah. I mean, I was a quiet kid, but I did not want to sit still. It was really difficult And he would sit there and you look at that candle. It seemed like an eternity, but it probably wasn't, probably 5 minutes. But to a kid, it seemed like an eternity. But he trained me. He said, the way you get through in life, and it will help you down the road, is discipline. You have to have discipline. I don't know how many times I haven't heard about him saying, oh, you need to discipline yourself. It didn't matter what I did. The man was always telling me about disciplining myself. And yeah, as a kid, it's annoying. But as I grew up, because I had gotten into that routine, it became a lot easier. And that's not to say I don't fall out of it, because life just pulls you in all these different directions. But yeah, the core of me, I believe, is still there. I'm anchored in that system, and I'm anchored because I started so young at such an early age. So the kids, I feel sorry for them that they don't, their parents or the system or the school or whatever it is, don't condition them at an early age. I try to teach this to my grandkids. I try to teach them, be quiet. Sometimes I'll put a tape on their mouth and say, you're not allowed to talk. You just have to sit and, you're not allowed to talk. And when we come to dinner, when I'm serving dinner, 5 minutes, I do not want to hear one single mutter out of anyone. And I know my son-in-law thinks, like, you're really tough. You have no idea how it was for me as a kid. This is nothing. So you have to respect the table. Give it 5 minutes of quiet time. So this is almost like an altar. If you went into the church, you wouldn't go up to the to get communion and be chattering. It's the same to me. You have to respect the food. Just sit and be still. We can start talking while we're eating, but in the beginning, be quiet. And I think the system is lacking in that, and it's not about religion. It's about just respecting and being responsible and understanding there's a time and place for everything.
Absolutely.
There's time and space for everything, and they're not being taught that. And you don't need to go to the Bible. My dad always used to say, I don't need a book to tell me how to be. I don't need a book to tell me what's right. I don't need a book to tell me how to be a decent human being. I don't need a book to tell me what Christianity is. I don't need a book to describe that. And not that he was anti-religion, but he was just not into the structure of the that whole religiosity thing. He just did not like that at all.
He just basically supported the morals of it. The moral side of it.
Said you have to, exactly, you have to trust your inner voice. The man was talking about shadow work, and I had no idea because I was a kid. What do I know? I was just being a kid. So all of this came forward later on.
Is that how you come to know about shadow work, or you had the desire to even do it?
Yes, I believe pretty much that had set the stage for me, but I didn't really know that it had set the stage for me. The whole thing about meditation and about being quiet. And he used to say, we did not go to church, really. It was not, he didn't feel church per se was necessary. We would go from time to time, but it wasn't part of an every Sunday kind of routine, because he used to point out to me that, I think it was Matthew 6:6, that in the Bible it said you can go into your closet and speak to your Father. You do not need to be in a structure, in a church, to speak to your Father. And you just need to be silent. When I look back at the Bible, it stresses so much about silence. It's amazing what's in there. And over the years, I've come to appreciate some of what's in there because it stresses about silence and going inward. And that's not really stressed in churches and stuff, because it's all about coming to church and giving money. But it's really in there. It's in that book. And that one thing is in Matthew 6, I believe it is, about basically going into your closet, and that's your church. because all you need to do is to be silent and communicate with your higher self.
Yes.
Because basically, the book also says the kingdom of God is within you.
Yeah.
And it's right there. It's right there in the book. It says the kingdom of God is within you in Luke 17:21. So why do we go anywhere? Because that's what we're told to do. That's what we're led to believe. That's what we're forced to do as children. That's what the general consensus is all about. I used to get really upset with the whole separation of church and state thing, because I said, well, a lot of them appear to be atheists. And I didn't get upset at them because they were atheists. I got upset at them because they knew what the deal was, but they weren't telling us. They were allowing the public to go down the wrong path. That was what was upsetting to me. It's like, okay, you're an atheist because you kind of know that is not exactly the most empowering path for us to be taking, but you're not saying. You're just, we'll just have separation of church and state. Yet on the dollar bill it says, in God we trust. Really? Seriously? So that used to frustrate me. Like, why can't people see this? It doesn't make sense. You have money that says, in God we trust, but then those people are atheists. That is very confusing to an average person's mind. And I don't think we see it consciously. That's half the problem is we don't see a lot of things consciously. As you've so rightly said so many times, a lot of this stuff is subliminal. And a lot of this sort of got me interested in hypnosis, because I wanted to understand how is the mind manipulated. So I started studying hypnosis, and it did become a part of my massage practice. But I wanted to understand hypnosis, because I said, all this subliminal stuff that, we see everywhere, it sends conflicting messages, it's double speak, and people have no clue. They just follow along because that's what they're taught to do. They're conditioned to be followers. I had, I think the teacher in the Catholic school, because I ended up in Catholic school, which my dad was Catholic, so they put me in Catholic school, and his reasoning was for the discipline. Okay, all right, for the discipline. Yeah, you mean for the torture. Because, and what they told us in Catholic school, which is giving me goosebumps even now, is that people in private schools are taught to be leaders, and people in public schools are taught to be followers. And I remember, to this minute, as I'm telling you this, I remember how annoyed that made me. That made me so annoyed, because my cousins were in public school, and I was the only one in Catholic school. And I was, 12, 13, and I remember how angry I got at that whole idea, that we're special and those other people are what? Garbage? My cousins go to public school. So this is the mentality, and I'm sure in private schools here, and colleges and universities and any other places, I don't know if they still say these things, but they probably say it, but in a different way, that you're special and those other people are not. And when you start telling a child that you're not special, then, hello, guess what they're going to believe?
This is a big problem. I don't believe, my own opinion, I don't believe there should be religious type schools. I don't think there should be elitist type schools either. Of course, grammar is often misunderstood, because that's about learning Latin, and only Latin. But the idea that you indoctrinate children with a program based on their religion at the age of 4 is taking away their free will. If they choose to go on and become a practicing Protestant or a practicing Muslim or a practicing Catholic when they reach an age where they can discover themselves and make their own choices, that's fine.
Right.
I just object I don't. It just creates division. We had a lot of it in Liverpool. We had a lot of it in across the pond in Ireland, where the kids could only go to a Catholic school or they could only go to a Protestant school. There was no mixing because it wasn't allowed.
Wow.
You couldn't,
Right.
even the names of pubs or bars, the names were irrelevant. It's, no, that's a Protestant pub, that's a Catholic pub. And the mixing,
Wow.
and even in parts of Liverpool up until the early 60s, there was regions where Protestants couldn't go, and there's regions where Catholics couldn't go, or they weren't welcome either side. Otherwise, it just descended into violence. And so this is why, to me, that's all nonsensical, that you would argue over whose God's better than the other God, you know.
Right.
And it never made sense to me when I was 6 or 7. It never resonated with me when I was 6 or 7. And I think that the idea, going forward, we need to just have an education school, not with a label on, a Catholic school or
Right.
a grammar school or a Protestant school or whatever other school. It's just
Right.
learning for children to give them the best chance possible going forward in life.
I agree. It's all about division, separating people, keeping them separated and isolated in this group and that group and within subgroups. And what is that madness? What is this madness? But, you know, from my coming to know about this and wanting to do it and doing the meditation for a long time, around 12, 13, 14, I think my psychic abilities started to open up. And I would have visions and I would have dreams and I could feel my head, energy inside of me was changing and it was a little scary. But I didn't say anything because I was a daydreamer. So I used to think that I'm just daydreaming. This stuff is just happening. I didn't know really about psychic abilities. And my dad I don't think he really figured that my meditating would have opened me up because I was already an empath. So it was easy for this thing to take that course.
Yes.
And so I started having visions. And one of the visions that I had, and he used to tell me about the end of time, but I used to get a lot of dreams, and one of the dreams that I had was about my role in this end of time. And I didn't know what any of that was, and he used to tell me about it. Well, 2000 is coming, and I probably won't be around, but I want you to remember this, this, this. And so that pretty much stuck in my head. One of the things that I'd also dreamt, which I think would probably scare some people, but it didn't bother me because I felt so normal and so natural. I've seen so many aspects of things happening in my life that has come to pass. One of the things that sort of I tease about is that I had this vision of myself laying in a bed, this really, really, really old person, so old and feeble, but just laying in the bed, peaceful, and just dying their sleep. And basically, I had felt in that dream, I felt that my body was saying, okay, I've done a good job. I've done all that I came to do. We're ready to leave. And as a kid, I have no idea what that was. But as I grew older and started understanding a lot of this stuff and started studying some of the Native American culture and appreciating that and how you can tell your body what you needed to do, just like you were saying before, I got to appreciating that a lot more. Like one of the things that the doctor teased me about, and she said, well, at some point you're going to go into menopause. And I told her, I said, I don't go into anything. I will tell my body when I want to stop. And she said, well, nobody does that. And I said, I will. And she said, well, how would you do such a thing? I said, are you not familiar with Native American traditions? You can tell your body. And that's not to say that that's exclusive to that group. It's just that it's more familiar. So I said, don't you know that you can tell your body what you want it to do? Whatever you want your body to do, And whatever you tell your body, it will believe you. Okay? You tell yourself, oh my gosh, I feel so sick today. This job is making me sick. Guess what? You will get sick. Yeah. So I told her, I said, no, I'm not ready to go into menopause. I will keep it just to be a pain in the butt. I'm not going into menopause. When I'm ready to stop, I will tell my body stop, and it will stop. And so it did. And so she said, you told your body to stop, and it did? And I said, yeah. You want me to make it start up again? And I made it start up again, and she didn't know what to do with me. She's like, I don't know what to do with you. You made it start up again. I said, yeah. And I can make it stop again, and I can make it start again. I said, I don't want it because I'm not planning to have any kids. So I will make it stop. And I said, put that in your book. Put that in your book, because that's not in any book. So you can tell your body what you want it to do. And when I'm ready to leave this planet, I will tell my body, okay, I'm tired, ready to go. I told her I'm going to live to 120. And she said, well, how would you do that? I said, because I'll just tell my body that's what I want to do. And I know I probably made the woman crazy, but I really believe in my heart. I believe in my heart that we can tell our body what to do, and we can talk to our body.
Yeah, this comes down to people's perception and their own limitations. There's too many labels and boxes. It's telling people, people say to you, what is your profession? And most people answer, I am a painter, or I am an office worker, or I'm a constructor, whatever. Well, actually, no, you're not. It's what you're doing currently. Right. And too often we get boxed in, we box in ourselves and limit ourselves to say, all I can do is paint, or all I can do is joinery. Well, no, you are capable of being a lawyer. You are capable of going on and being the President of the United States. You are capable of doing whatever you chose to do, providing you let go of your own self-limitation. And it's clearly that's what you've been doing, or guided to do yourself. So when you find out about all this shadow work and all this different aspects of the spiritual side, was there a key moment in your life that prompted you to begin doing the work on yourself?
Yes, I think though it was a slow build-up. I would say the pivotal moment came much later, somewhere around 1999, was I had gotten some more tapes, more books and tapes, some Deepak Chopra books and tapes. And so he was going, and he had pretty much, for me, married science and religion. That's how I remember him, as the person who married science and religion, and say, hey, they're pretty much one and the same. You don't need to keep these two things separate. And it was in one of his books and tapes that I learned about that poem that I posted on the page of I Was Looking for Your Face. It's in one of his books and tapes, well, on the CD. And I would play it over and over and over, because it keeps talking about I was looking for your face. And basically, it's the face that I've been looking for all my life. And you want to look in the mirror and talk to yourself doing that. And that was the exercise in that CD. And so I would do that, and I would just cry and cry and cry. And that was the first recognition of, oh my gosh, I cannot really look at myself. What is wrong with this picture? I cannot look at myself. How did it get to the place where I cannot look at myself? Because we were never taught to look at ourselves. We're taught to look outside of ourselves.
Yes.
And I think even though my dad was, he had already passed on. I think even though he had tried desperately to teach me, and I think he made a really good effort, and he laid the foundation for me, all the information was moving so rapidly, and there's such an inundation of self-help and looking outside of yourself, going to this seminar and that seminar and how to make money and how to be better and how to this and how to, that you lose track of, no, you don't need to do all of that. Get back into that quantum field, go back on the inside, buckle down, close the windows, shut the doors, lose the key, turn off the radio, turn off the phone, and stay in the dark. And that's okay. You're okay. That's where you need to find yourself. And that is, for me, what Deepak Chopra's stuff was about. He was all about the quantum field, and I got into quantum physics, started reading about quantum physics, and that helped me to understand, oh, I don't need to go to all those things. I just need to stay indoors and get a mirror and talk to myself. Simple. Let's keep it simple. And so that, I think, was really the first opportunity for me to realize this thing. It wasn't called shadow work at the time. It was pretty much called, what did he call it? Soul retrieval.
Yeah.
He did not call it soul retrieval, but that's what the New Age community was calling it. Soul retrieval and inner child work. So, okay, let's go do inner child work. I need to find my inner child. Let's go find my inner child. And I did. I did breath work and all sorts of things. Found my inner child, and I was off to the races. Like, oh my gosh, I found something new. The journey inward, I found out, is very long. It's very time-consuming. It's very slow. You have to be patient with yourself, and you have to trust yourself. If you don't trust yourself, you'll freak out, you'll get scared, and you'll go back outside and look outside for everything. Because it's a whole different world going inside, because we've not been taught to look inside. And inside is scary, and it's dark, and anything that's dark is evil and scary, and you can't go there because there are spiders and boogeymen and ghouls and every ugly kind of thing. So when you're taught that everything in the dark is ugly, why would you want to look inside? Inside is dark.
Yeah.
Who is going to stick their head into some place that's dark? No one wants to do that. We're made to be scared of this kind of work. And yet there is that man who comes along and sort of revolutionizes everything in the way he presents this information. And I just ate it up. And I was off to the races. And I thought, yeah, I think this is worth my time. And I spent a lot of time going through the exercises. I used to have little cards. I bought all the neon color cards, and I would, every time I found a quote in his book, I would just put it up on the wall. So my whole apartment had quotes. If I walked by something, I could just look on the wall and say, oh yeah, that's how I trained myself to remember. You need to stay within your space.
Yeah.
Hold a sacred space for yourself, and that's where you stay. And it started to build my confidence, and I started to feel better, and I started to become aware. And I was nowhere near how I am now. But what I started to recognize was that I was becoming more grounded. I was becoming more quiet. And the stillness that I had previously been conditioned to do was becoming expansive. I was starting to expand. And it was at that point I became a little scared, because I felt myself moving into what felt like
outside
infinity.
Your comfort zone for that time.
I was not prepared for that. I was just like, I feel like I'm getting bigger, and I'm floating, and I started having out-of-body experiences, and I thought, oh my word, now, okay, they did not prepare me for this part. I don't know, but I'm sticking with it because something great is happening. So I'm sticking with it, okay? I started journaling. So I started writing down all my experiences, everything that happened. I went to the dollar store and bought, I don't know, as many of those books that I could find, those, black and white model books. And I just feverishly wrote everything down every day, all day long, because I say, okay, this is worth writing down. I may yet make a book out of this. People may need to know this. So I would write everything down. And I kept doing this, and it helped me because then I could go back a month or 2 or 6 months later, a year later, and see the progress that I've made.
Yeah.
And so this was really, this was the start of it around 1999 when I started reading his books and tapes, which was very different from Stephen Covey and Wayne Dyer to a great degree because he married science and religion and wiped away the boundaries between those two things. That's how I felt.
Yeah.
So I sort of stayed with that and graduated out of it and found Debbie Ford's book. When was it? Around, I want to say 2011, I found Debbie Ford's book, The Dark Side of the Light Worker. And that took me off on a rocket to a whole other level because she had exercises in there about specifically designed to do your shadow work. And so her questions in there were geared to you looking at your, quote, evil self, your demons. Okay, we're getting into a whole other language that feels uncomfortable. Okay, all right, but it's a book. It's a book, and there's a person, and she didn't die, so okay, I'm not going to die. This is scary. She's talking about demons. She's talking about evil stuff. And every trigger came up. All the religious triggers came up. The darkness, the this, the that. But, you know, if you stick with it, you find the clearing. You have to do your own exercises and look at what you've done with your life. What mistakes you've made.
How long have you...
Go ahead.
How long have you been on this kind of self-recovering journey? And whilst you were on it, did you find there were strategies or techniques more effective in getting results and maybe others that were less effective?
Yes, I found that it helped to be... The stillness was probably the most important thing I find. Some of the strategies I found that was walking in nature. I would just, at will, not feel like doing anything else except just being with nature. I used to live in New Jersey, and so it became a habit that I had to go down to the ocean and spend a day. Just be at the ocean, not do anything, just be there. And then I had to spend another day at a different time going to the mountains. So I'd go up to Bear Mountain. So that was a routine. I had to do that. My body felt like it needed to do that. And I trusted myself. And I think I missed it one year, I felt so out of sync. So one of the things that I felt that was really very useful is being in nature. Whether it's the ocean, a park, wherever, just being with nature and being quiet in nature and just listening and connecting and feeling the breeze and hearing the birds. Everyone has a different style of what will resonate for them. For me, it was being in nature. For me, it was journaling. And I think everyone has to find their own tool, their own comfort zone, and it's worth experimenting. You know, let me try journaling. Let me see if this will help. If this works for me, let me try walking. Does that work for me? And it may not work every single time. One day you'll feel like walking, and one day you won't feel like walking. You may feel like just laying down under a tree and looking up at the sky. And one day you may just feel like, okay, I'll just journal. Or today I'll just listen to ocean waves, put on a CD or something. So I think it's finding, experimenting and
the
finding
right balance
for you, what resonates with you, and having a collection of those. Yes, exactly.
Chloe...
There's no one size fit all.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of shadow work.
Mm-hmm. Chloe and I went kayaking through the Crystal River.
I think the beauty of shadow work. There's no one size fit all.
And
Oh,
We went
how was
kayaking
that?
through the Crystal River, through all the hanging trees and the little small canals, and see the fish. And we were hoping to see the manatees, but not this time. They appear more in the winter than the summer. But it's
Okay.
everyone finds a different way to achieve solace. Some people like peace and quiet. I personally,
Right.
I can do both. I can go down the Crystal River, and I can go on a 400-foot roller coaster in Cedar Point in Ohio, and zone out on that even. So we're all kind of different, but being in nature, which I must admit I don't have enough time to do. Chloe likes it a lot more than I do. I can have an inner quiet without needing to go to certain places. I can just zone straight out. If something's too much, I'll just go straight in, and then everything gets shut out. But not everyone is able to achieve that nirvana, if you like. And but nature, and I at times used to go and if we ever went to the ocean, I just like to stand on the edge and zone out. And I can be there for an hour and thinking I've only been there for 5 minutes. You get into that inner zone, and the rest of the world just vanishes. It's just you and the noise of the waves. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. I remember going to a workshop, and they had us do what they call a proprioceptive exercise, where you have to close your eyes, and they would tell you, okay, can you hear a bird? And you have to be still to hear this bird. And they would say, can you hear what's going on behind you? How far back are you aware of what's going on behind you? Can you hear about what's on the right of you, on the left of you, and above you? And it was about, can you hear what's going on 360 degrees around you? And that was a really, as simple, but it was a really critical piece for me to the puzzle of stillness, awareness, and being connected. Because I could close my eyes, and I'm sure you can, and I'm sure a lot of the members out there probably could. You can be in the park, close your eyes, tune out, and still know everything that's going on. And yet, you're still in that silent, still place, holding sacred space for yourself, and you're aware that if danger approaches, you will know. I know you know how to do that. Yeah. And so that was a wonderful exercise. It's simple, but that's what I took away from that whole seminar, which I don't even remember what it was. But that one was a really good piece. They called it the proprioceptive awareness, where your consciousness is aware of everything going on around you, yet you're still, which is, I think, one of the things the Buddhas and the ninjas and all these people, they're very versed in that conditioning, where wherever they are, they know. If you can't creep up on them, they will know that you're there, because their awareness is so expansive. And so my awareness started to become so expansive, it was a little scary, because I was reaching out into dimensions that I couldn't even describe. And I felt like, okay, one of these days I may just float away, because I feel so expansive.
But that's the real you.
Please put a rock on my ankle, please. I feel like I'm floating. It was a scary feeling. I was like, okay, maybe you need to slow down this meditation thing. You're floating away. And there are times I would see the floor moving, the wall moving, and I'm going to work and everything is vibrating, and I go, oh my gosh, I think 2 hours is too long for you to meditate. You need to cut it in half, because now everything is vibrating. And so I had to not so much pull it back, but pick my times. If you're going to meditate 2 hours, don't go to work, because everything will move. The floor will move, the carpet moves, the dots on the carpet move. And I would say to people, do you see that moving? And they would look at me like, what? Nothing's moving. okay, never mind. No, you're right. Nothing moved. And then I realized that it was just me seeing into the dimensions, into the spaces. Like last year, I got to a place where everything around me, I would close my eyes and the space around me was this fluid, whatever. I can't even describe it. I would just see bubbles in my mind's eye floating. And if I walk, in a certain direction, the bubbles would just move away. And then they would come back together. And I thought, whoa, okay, no, I'm not smoking anything. This is just meditation. This is what you do. This is how you become in meditation, which is pretty much the same thing for somebody who smokes. If you have to do some sort of drug, they're trying to accomplish that same thing, which those of us who meditate can accomplish with the meditation. And so now, this year, with all of what's going on and all my shadow work, I don't see the bubbles anymore. When I close my eyes, I go, where are the bubbles? And I got to realizing that I am in the space. I am a bubble. And so this time, I was not scared anymore. The expansiveness of everything that I could feel out there, I wasn't so much feeling it anymore. It was no longer a sense of feeling a separation of me and space. It was just, now I am.
Yes.
Now I am all that space. And I don't need to qualify it. I don't need to quantify it, qualify it. I don't care how far it goes. I don't care if there's an edge, if there's no edge, if there's flat earth, no flat earth, round earth, doesn't matter.
No.
I was like, I'm peace, I'm part and piece of all of it. And that's sort of where I am right now. And I know you know what that feels like.
Yes, I do. And maybe this is a good time to have a little music break. And another one of your favourite songs, may it be. We'll be back shortly with more from Ramona, and enjoy the music. Hi all, and welcome back to the second hour this evening with my special guest Ramona Helitha, telling all about her story. And that was two songs by Celtic Woman, May It Be, and The Voice. And both of us enjoy that type of music. So it was good to hear that music again. No bagpipes in that one though, Ra. Are you still there?
I'm here, yes. I love Celtic music. I love Celtic music and bagpipes. Ah, yes.
Right, where do we go next? So on your journey, along the journey, have you found anything that kind of detracts or slows down your or other people's efforts and progress in doing this type of work?
Some of the things that I found, people sometimes think that we've read and seen a lot about food, and you have to eat this kind of food and that kind of food and standard red. And when you talk about those things, I always chuckle because I think you know also that no, you don't really have to do all of those things. Granted, they may be supportive in some way, but it's all dependent on the person. But no, you don't have to do all of those things, because what's really going on is your vibration. Yeah. That's the most important thing, is your vibration. Your vibration tells the story. Your vibration is all it is. That's like you were saying in the beginning. You walk into a room and you can feel everyone's vibration. And as an empath, I know you know that. I know you've sensed that. You've walked into a room and boom, you know everybody just by their vibration. And it didn't matter what clothes they were wearing, what they were eating, what they were not eating. It wasn't about that. It was, you are your vibration. Wherever you are, your vibration is there with you. So I find that the worry about the minutia, about what food you have to eat, what position you have to sit in, what direction you have to face, all this petty stuff pretty much is a distraction, I think. It slows you down. You want to stand on your head, fine, but not because some book says that's the best. That's the best way for the person writing the book because they make money. Yeah. But is it going to work for you? It's not about that. The focus is about your vibration, so getting your vibration out. The other thing that I felt that is very distracting is negative emotions. Again, vibration. What you're thinking, what you're putting forth, what you're telling yourself, what you're telling your body, how you're treating yourself, how you treat yourself is how you will treat other people. If you argue with yourself constantly, then that's what's going on in your vibration. This is what you will put forward. Harboring negative energies and things that don't serve you, energies that don't serve you, that do not empower you, that makes you feel tired or weak, or any kind of energy that just is drained, I would consider to be a negative energy, for lack of a better word. Yeah. Those things are distractions, and they slow you down. Letting others control you, by that person makes me so mad. Yeah, you make me so mad. You make me so sick. You make me whatever. Fill in the blank. No one can make you anything. No. If that person is making you fill in the blank, then they're controlling you, because now you're upset and they're looking at you as, what is your problem? I haven't done anything to you. That's what they'll say to you. And true, I did what I did and you reacted. That's all there is. I think we pretty much all are familiar with walking in or in a place and someone say, you scare me. They got startled, but they say, you scare me. The grandkids do that. You scare me. I haven't done anything. I simply walked into the room.
Yeah,
what, should I not walk into the room?
Yeah, it's the projection again of things outside of their own field that they can't comprehend or adjust to. People who operate on a higher frequency will be noticed by others. And then you also have an envy if people are acting in a certain way that's calmer or a better manner. And people too often, instead of elevating themselves into a position that they like of other people, they would sooner choose to drag you down to their level and operate from there. And this is one of the things I say at the end of the show: don't compete with your friends, family, or neighbours, because all you're doing is dragging yourself down. You're putting yourself in a debt cycle on the financial side of things, and you're allowing others to vampire your energy and your life path. So basically, you go out and buy the next car, the next house, and the next phone. You're competing. You're not doing it because you want it. You're doing it because your friends, family, or neighbour have done it, and it becomes a game.
Right.
And that's where, when you lose track of who and what you are, and the mask of illusion, which I've been talking about recently. I'm going to talk about more about that on Thursday. The mask of illusion that you all put up. I am this, and this is my house, and this is it. It's all an illusion.
Right.
Of the you.
Exactly. Yeah, letting other people control us is, I think, probably one of the biggest problems of this work. It's the biggest distraction, I think. For example, or letting outside situations control us. It may not necessarily be people. It may be, you're walking and the heel of your shoe broke. Well, that's life. Things happen. Or the alarm for your car didn't go, the alarm for your getting up in the morning didn't go on, and now you're late. That's just life. I was typing the prayer for my group, the prayer group. I was typing up the prayer. I'm in that space, and I'm just writing. It closed. I'm just writing. And I have no idea what happened. Facebook just logged me off. I didn't get to save it because I usually save it and, edit and save and edit and save. And I didn't get to save it. And it just disappeared. And I go, I'm sitting there and I was so stunned that it just disappeared. And I'm looking, did you send it? No, I didn't. And I just sat there and I was quiet. And I said, I can feel this annoyance going through my body. I can feel every emotion, and I want to be upset, and I'm just allowing myself to sit still, and I'm saying, don't move, because if you move, you're going to be upset. Don't move. Just let the process fill it. It's going to go away. I wasn't always like that. That's not to say there are situations that come up that I don't get upset. I do get upset at things. I said, hey, it's okay. It's okay to get upset. You're human. Let's not forget, you're human. Now just, go outside, take a breath, go hug the tree, like when you were doing the Illuminati thing, and I just started bawling. I was in tears by the end of the show. All right, all I heard was, go outside. Just go outside. Do not pass go. Go outside. So I went outside, and the tree called me, and it said, come. And I went and I hugged the tree. But it's discipline. It's back to that foundation of discipline. And that's probably one of the cornerstones of this work is discipline of being in that space. And when things happen, because we are in life and we are in the flow, when things happen, have a repertoire of coping skills. Yeah. Have a bunch of things you do, whether it's go drink some water, go take a walk, go stand in front of the fan or the air conditioner, go sit in your car and scream. Years ago, I used to go in the closet and scream. I used to go in my closet, lock the door, and scream. My kids would say, "What are you doing?" And I say, "I'm decompressing, but I don't kill somebody." Because.
But it's all about.
You're crazy. I would rather shut myself away. Yeah.
But these situations.
Just decompress. Whatever. Find your way.
These situations always crop up that will trip you up on a daily or weekly or monthly basis. If the same thing in your life keeps cropping up, it means you haven't really learned the lesson the first time. It keeps happening. And you're going to get people who are basically annoying. You're going to get people who are pretty stupid and are going to act badly. And it's not what they have done that counts. It's how you react to it that counts.
Right.
If you choose to project back what they give you, you've just played yourself into the game of the vampiric energy. The idea is to step back, not give them what they want, which is a reaction. And the key to everything in life is how you react to misfortune, how you react to losing loved ones, or losing relationships, or you lose your car keys, or you have an accident in the car, or whatever. It's all about how you react to it. Because if you don't react in the correct manner, you'll find your higher self comes up with another scenario to then correct it. But you see people often, and we've seen enough in the alternative media, where people are projecting anger all the time. And the projection of anger is a fault of the inner self.
Right.
Because you haven't been able to correct your inner self to react in a different manner. So this work that you've kind of dedicated yourself to in many ways, do you see it as a daily thing, as a lifestyle choice, or do you feel now where you're at, it's just whenever you need it?
Oh, it's my daily bread. It is my breakfast, my lunch, my snack, my dinner, my waking, my sleeping. It's my entire existence. It's nice, and I know you know that feeling. Yes. It's just nice operating from this sacred space, on just seeing life, and by no means, I don't want anybody to think that we've got it down. It's perfect. It isn't.
Yeah.
It isn't. It will never be perfect. But I think when, as you said, when you get to a certain vibration, and I'm comfortable in a way to where I am, because I've done so much work, and all that I've done from the beginning of the year, where I had been laid out like a wet rug for a few days. That was hard work, and so now I think I'm using what I've learned from that cycle, and I'm in a different cycle. And at some point, I believe it will come back, and I'll have more work to do, and then I'll get out and practice what I've learned. So, yeah, this is a daily. This is life. I feel this is not even like a diet or eating or anything. This is just a lifestyle for me now. If I don't do this, then I feel like I'm naked or something. I have to, whether it's walking or writing. For me, it's writing, sitting under a tree, hugging a tree, talking to a plant, helping someone, But in the end of it, the stillness is, I always go back to the stillness because it's so delicious. The stillness is so delicious. Sometimes I don't want to leave. You know that feeling? Sometimes I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave. I just want to stay here and be still. Don't want to do anything. I don't have to do anything.
What would you say?
What
would you say? What your advice would be if people said there was shortcuts to doing this type of work? If are there any shortcuts in making this journey quicker or easier?
I wouldn't quite say that there are shortcuts, although you could probably think of it that way. I would think that maybe a simpler approach as opposed to struggle. Struggle is an option. I've heard that quotation a long time ago, and I believe it is. Struggle is an option because life is simple. And you've said that many times, and I totally agree. It is simple. It is really, really simple. So what I found in terms of if one would consider this a shortcut is breathing with intention. Yeah. Everything is about intention. The discipline and the focus of this work and the journey inward is all about intention. Because you can go inward and see nothing but darkness and confusion because you're hearing all the craziness that's going on inside of you. But if you focus your intention that I am going inward to be still, to listen, to hear what's going on inside, and be an observer, then it's a whole different focus. So I would say one of the shortcuts would be breathing with intention, whether it's you hold your heart or your solar plexus or whatever body part you feel comfortable, just laying your hands there and breathing with the intention of becoming still and just listening. To me, that's keeping it simple, as simple as it gets. Breathing, it facilitates a lot of things because it calms you down. It allows the muscles to relax, and it puts you in a quiet place really, really quickly.
Yeah, the saying is it's a KISS moment. KISS. Yes. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yep. Definitely one of those.
It often bothers me greatly how complex life is. Whether banking's complex, whether legal's complex, science has been made complex, and all kinds of other things, and everything is complex. The tax code is another thing. When it could all be so much simpler with just simple solutions. It's like I came up with the 10% of American adults putting in $1 a week will generate $90 million to create our own jobs, to create better health and help people get started in businesses or educate or give jobs or clear debt. It's a simple, very, very simple solution of how we, not the government, because we've waited since 1871 for the government to fix things. They're not going to do it. Not Trump, not Obama, not Democrats, not liberals, left, right, and all the other stuff. The only thing that fixes it is us. And that's the top and bottom line. You know, E.T.'s not coming down to save you. I don't care what Corey Goode and Wilcox said. They're just not. Anyone with any advanced evolutionary knowledge is not going to help save others from themselves. And this is what we're doing. This whole journey we're on is about saving ourselves from our own stupidity, because we've allowed it to go so far. We've allowed ourselves to struggle. We've allowed ourselves to be in poverty, and we can blame Cabal. And don't get me wrong, I'm not exonerating them, not in any shape or form. But they've kept making it harder because we kept allowing it. And so we have to start doing the dirty work of clearing ourselves, getting rid of all the baggage, where we can step forward in our own sovereignty, puff our chests out and go, you know what? I'm worth more than this. And so are we. And all this cabal and Trumps and politics all disappears like magic. It's not magic, it's just reality. And that's the simple aspect. And people go, it can't be that simple. Why can't it be? Because everything else is complex, it's not worked. Just go simple. Of course, simple is also a terminology for being stupid. You see how they invert everything? It's like everything else, they completely invert it.
I think I've oftentimes it's completely inverted it, yes. I oftentimes think the whole system is, I used to step away from it, look at it and laugh, because I would look at it and say, you know, everybody is a specialist. What is wrong with this picture? Why is everybody a specialist? Okay, I am going to create something, and it's going to be called basics. It's going to be called back to basics, because nobody wants to do basics, because everybody thinks being a specialist means you get more money. And people are stupid. They have no idea about this, that, technology. Nobody. Let's do basics and teach basics, and everybody will come. Yeah. And people would laugh at me, and I'd think, everybody's a specialist. How many specialists do you need?
Well, this is it. It's these the titles you say.
Fundamentals. Let's go back to simplicity.
You know, it's you gave an example in our discussion earlier, and we've just spoken about inversion, and everyone says go to the light, when actually you really need to go to the dark, which is the inner side of you. And you gave an example about earlier about something that had to go into the dark to then come out into the light. Perhaps you can tell that side of it now yourself. About the plant.
What? Oh, yes. I used to explain to my mom, and she used to get into animated debate, conversation, because she's very Bible oriented and spacey, she would say. So I would, she's all about hell and darkness and brimstone and fire, and I would say there's no hell. There can't be any hell, and we got into that. And so I would say to her, look at it this way. So if you plant a seed, where are you planting the seed? You're planting the seed in the ground. Is not the ground dark? Is not the soil dark? When you would make the garden in the backyard garden, you would plant the seed in the soil. And the soil is dark, and it has to be warm and nurturing so that it can germinate. So if you're planting a seed in the ground where it's dark and warm, and wet and all this other stuff, how can that be bad?
Yeah.
And that, of course, that was a whole new argument. But it cannot be bad. You cannot go into the dark and it be bad. The darkness is stillness. Because in the ground, it's still, it's dark, it's quiet, and it needs to have that ecosystem there in order for it to germinate, in order for the tree to grow, for the plant to come, so we can have life on the other side, which is life. Yeah. So going into this darkness, it's a journey. Consider it a joyride. All this wanting to know, I was very impatient with myself about, okay, I need to know this. And there is no book out there to teach me this beside Debbie Ford's book. So I was like, okay, I want to know about this. And that whole ayahuasca thing that I talked about before kept coming up. And I'd heard that the plant will call you. You don't get to go. So it kept coming up all over me. It kept coming up. And I said, okay, maybe I should try this. I've never even smoked in my life. So I was scared. Yeah, I was terrified. But I spent 4 years researching everything I could. And so I finally got up enough courage, went to Peru by myself to do this ayahuasca thing. And the first night we had the tea, I was furious at God at that point, because I'm saying the world is falling apart. You're just sitting back and watching. I'm remembering, what's her name? Her song is God is Watching Us. And I used to get really upset at that song because I said, what? Is he a voyeur? He just watches? He doesn't do anything to fix anything? So I used to get really upset at that song. So I said, okay, I'm going to have a little talk with God, because I've heard people say they go talk to God. I have no idea. I want to find me. I'm looking for me, but I also want to have a little talk with this God person. So I go, and the first night I take the tea, and I'm waiting, and I'm praying, and I'm saying every prayer I know because I'm scared. But there's no turning back. There's no turning back. I could just feel every muscle, there's no turning back. But can we get a antidote? No, there's no turning back. So I said, okay, I'll just pray. I'm grateful that I remembered the Hail Mary. I must have said 100 Hail Marys. And I'm praying and I'm praying and I'm praying. I'm like, okay, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to see. And I just felt this presence, this energy of colors. And so I said, and the shaman said, you'll get to a point where someone may show up or something, or some energy may show up and ask, why are you here? And you have to make your declaration of what are you asking the plant to show you. And so I just felt this energy of colors, and it said, so, in essence, why are you here? And I said, I came to talk to God. And it paused, and it said, you came to talk to God? I said, yes, I came to talk to God because I am pissed off. And I am not leaving this place until I talk to God, because I am pissed off at what is going on out there in the world. And I need to talk to somebody about this. So, and I just felt like it was laughing at me. And so I said, I'm not leaving until I talk to God. And the response was, you will not know God if it shows up. And I paused and I said, what do you mean I would not know? Of course I would know God. I would know God when God showed up. And I'm not leaving until I talk to God. And they repeated, you will not know God if God showed up. And that was the second time. And I paused and I thought about it, and I didn't have to ask again, because what came flooding into my consciousness was, you do not need to look. The kingdom of God is within you. And this is the first time in my life that I totally got it. It wasn't about the words or about someone in a pulpit trying to explain it, or a book 4 paragraphs trying to explain it. It was instantaneous. The kingdom of God is within you. You do not need to look.
No.
That's it. You came to the right place. You have now reached the altar of your spirit, your soul, your heart, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. But the kingdom is right there. And you can start your journey going deep. And that was it. I was off to the races. I didn't bother about, it didn't matter who God was at that point. Like, hey, we have it all inside. Let's go. Yeah. I was flying. I'm like, okay, now I understand. How fast can I go so I can get answers Can we speed? Can we go on a joyride? I want to know as much as I can. Yeah, that was a powerful moment. The rest of the other 7 days, I can't.
You realized who you are.
Yes, definitely.
Not who somebody else. That's somebody else who we've been told is outside of us. You found out who you are. And again, I pointed out the piece I do at the end of the shows. Remember who you are. Now go out with the confidence of knowing who and what you are and excel in yourself. There's not someone sitting in a cloud passing judgment on you.
Yep.
You are your own judgment.
Yep.
You're always where. You are your own God also. You're always where.
Right. Very powerful.
Yeah.
Very powerful. Very true. It's very true. Another time I did another ayahuasca experience in Florida, and I was seeing myself being born. That was the experience. Wow. I wanted to know more about me. And this was a different time. And I was seeing my birth. I was seeing my birth take place. I was in the room watching my mother going through labor pain and all the people that were there, and I could see me being born. And I also saw a being, and it was not hostile, but because it didn't look human, I was very hostile. I don't want you here, get out of here. That went on back and forth for a little while. And the being said, I'm just here to make sure everything is okay, that, we have a vested interest to make sure you're okay. And what it said to me is that every child is born with reptilian DNA. Well, I did not want to hear that. And I told it, you leave right now. Nobody's born with reptilian DNA. And it said, no, every child is born with reptilian DNA. However, it is not bad. The reptilian DNA that we have is not bad. It is the stuff that keeps us alive. It keeps us safe. It keeps us fight or flight. It helps you nurture yourself. It helps you feed yourself. It lets you know when you're hungry. It is a survival mechanism. And we're taught that it's bad. And yeah, there are those who are doing bad things, but the part of you that it has that reptilian DNA is not bad. And so I said, okay, then you can stay. That's fine. And at that very instant when I gave my okay, I saw myself being born. My whole body came out of my mother, and there was this amazing golden light that filled the room to the point where I could see nothing else except my mom. And what the being said is that every child is born with an extra layer of love, a protection when the mother loves the child. So you're born in love anyhow, but when your mother wants you and is nurturing to you, you receive an extra layer of love. And then the being said, now take this and take it to the world. You have to take this information to the world. And I said, well, how am I supposed to do that? I don't have any platform. So I just left it be. And so this comes here, and here we are now. So I am very grateful to you for creating this platform that you have for all of us, that we can support each other and nurture each other. It's like a dream come true, certainly for me, that all these amazing people are drawn together in this group that is growing and growing. And I feel so blessed and fortunate to be a part of this family. So, at this point, let me say thank you. Thank you for your dedication. Because I know this is hard work.
Yes, but it has its rewards.
Yes.
I've often said the show's not really about me. There's too many others who think the show is about them. And I'd rather not go down that path. It's not the way I operate. I can't. I have to practice what I preach. No one is above anybody else. You know, we used to get people, spoke to a couple of the members listening to this will remember this. Oh, it's a great honour to speak to you. Please don't say that to me, because I'm no different to anybody else. Just because I'm the voice on the end of the radio doesn't make me elevated above anybody else. And I wish more people acted in that manner, because, you know, we've said on the show, never put anybody above your own heart. And that's the important thing. Because the danger is what happens is then we get into the other issue, which we're trying to erase with the shows, of the victim saviour, you know. And it's the swinging clock again, going from victim mode, or I've got limitations, I can't do this, and nothing works for me, and I always get bad luck. Well, you've just manifested all of that. And then it swings from the other side, and the all-powerful, all this, and I'm going to save the world, and no, you get back into the balance, come into the middle. You're the saviour. It's not your role to save somebody else. They have to save themselves, ultimately. Yes, it's nice to be in a group and everyone looks after you, but I can't do the shadow work for you. I can't do it for Holly or James or anybody else in the group. They have to do that work themselves. And it's difficult. There's things I can help people with the show and passing my knowledge on, and then we bring people on like yourself who've gone through quite a journey of self-discovery, because that's basically what it is. It's self-discovery, and once you discover yourself, you realise everything outside of yourself doesn't really matter. It's about what you do and how you react to things, and how you allow or not allow vampiric people to absorb your energy and distort your energy field. We shouldn't have to put up with that, and we shouldn't have to put up with being abused. Yes, there's some bad people who abuse, but you have to be careful about the energy you're putting out, but that can also create the abuse. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, because it then puts the responsibility on themselves, and it doesn't apply to every situation, but too many times we give ourselves over to the dark because it's easier than doing the harder path, like we've all done. All the people who have listened to the show have took the harder path. We've gone down the truth, and that's not easy, because we're being ridiculed by friends, loved ones, families, etc., and many of us have been cast aside because of it. But we still have our own way to go, and doing this shadow work and dealing with your inner side is the benefits to the individual is way more than any Nasara or Jisara or RVs or GCRs and all that stuff can ever repay you. Your thoughts on?
Very true. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. That is very true. I've oftentimes, when I've posted things, because this is something that I learned a number of different places, it seemed to repeat. So it became a cornerstone for my development, was that together with the freedom, you want freedom? Great. With freedom comes responsibility.
Yeah.
You can't, they're mutually exclusive, because in order for you to have that freedom, you have to be willing to do certain things. And if you're not willing to do those certain things, then the freedom is not about, oh, well, I can go here and do the drive and whatever. The freedom is inside. So, like Mandela, you could be in the prison and be free, because it's all on the inside. It's how you feel on the inside, that no one can take your sovereignty away. No one can usurp your power, and no one can take anything that you don't want them to have. And that's the freedom, and it takes the responsibility of being a certain kind of person and having the discipline, back to that foundation, having the discipline to do certain things consistently and be your own person and not be afraid to stand up for yourself and stand up in your power. And I know pretty much all the empaths have been castrated as something, some label, and I think we have a neon sign on our forehead that says sucker, and
yep.
people just gravitate to us because we have a kindness.
Yep.
And so I see a trend where the empaths are now beginning to stand up for themselves. And I used to say, to my mom, I would say, it's a community service for you to be able to tell people such and such and such a thing, this company did this or whatever. You have to stand up and say something, because she would be afraid. She said, I don't want to cause trouble. I said, well, it's not causing trouble. By not saying something, it's expanding the trouble, because you allow the companies to do whatever they want. You allow whomever, because they figure, hey, if you didn't say anything, it must be okay.
That's
so
how
unless
it works.
you tell the person, unless you say something, plus you're giving the person an opportunity to correct the situation. Because unless you have knowledge of something the way it is or should be or is wrong, be fair. If the person doesn't know what's wrong, how do you expect them to fix it? You can't just sit back and say, oh, well, she did this to me or he did this to me, and, well, they should know better. Oh, heavens, we know that line. They should know better. Well, what if they didn't? What if they did? But what if they didn't? Give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they didn't. So it's a community service. Tell them. She was terrified. And I said, well, then you're contributing to the degradation of the system, because then when all these people say nothing, as far as the company goes, they may go, well, hey, nobody cares.
Yep.
So why should we change?
Complicit by inaction.
Yeah. So now I find a lot of empaths are finding their space and their power, and they're stepping up and they say, okay, I'm done. No, we're not doing that anymore. Sorry. And now the people who are accustomed to, shooting arrows at us, they're getting upset and they're going, what's your problem? I have no problem. Who said I had a problem? I'm just standing in my power, and you're having a tough time because it's not business as usual.
Yep.
And so I'm so excited that so many people are standing in their power. And it's like, yes, come on, let's go. This is an army. An army of warriors for standing in your power.
Yep, that's it.
So yeah, it's very exciting time.
So do you feel the progress you've made over the years with your self-journey was useful in coping with the onslaught of disclosure that we've had over the past 12, 18 months in particular?
Yes, absolutely. I don't know how I would have dealt with that, because even with all that I felt I had accomplished in terms of being prepared, it's only so much you can be prepared. I was nervous. I was as nervous as everyone else. But what I found to be helpful in all those times where I felt like, oh my gosh, this is it, you could feel that we're 2 days away from blowing ourselves into oblivion. You could almost plug into the source and feel it. And those were times I would get really, really quiet. But again, it's back to the discipline. The fact that I was able to discipline myself to have that conditioning allowed me to be quiet when I was feeling really scared. Like, oh my gosh, we're going to blow everything up. And when you come on and you say, oh, well, folks, we were 4 days away from whatever annihilation, I go, oh my gosh, I knew it. You could just feel it. But, and then it would change. Then the energy would change and you would feel it. And it's like, oh, something changed. And I would call my girlfriend up and I'd say, did you feel that? Something changed. And we would talk about it. Oh my gosh, it's crazy today. The energy is crazy. And then by the end of the day, she would call or I would call and say, oh, something shifted again. It's not going to be as bad. So yes, it absolutely was instrumental in helping me certainly cope with the fast-moving tides, because things were moving very fast. And, I look forward to every week for confirmation, because it's like we're going blind on this. We've never done this before. And we're like, oh, it's Thursday. Yes, Tommy's here. We can hear confirmation. We didn't blow up, so he's going to be here Thursday, so everything is okay. So, yeah, it is invaluable, totally invaluable. It was an invaluable skill.
So you feel now you're a different person because of the work you've done? You basically changed your whole persona as such. And in what way?
And in one way I am, and in another way I'm not. I am, what I am is more of myself. And it's not so much that it feels different. It feels different because I've grown and I've become more aware and conscious of the beyond as far as I can stretch my fingers, beyond my own little world, my own comfort zone, my own auric space. I feel I can go beyond that. So in that sense, I am different because I have become more expansive and I'm much more comfortable with the expansiveness. So it's a difference and the same, because I'm still in this meat suit, really haven't changed, and certain habits are the same, and certain ways and my little idiosyncrasies are the same, because it doesn't interfere with anything. But in terms of my spiritual development, which is everything to me, it's like I couldn't care less about money and this and that and cars, and I don't care. And I get flack for that too. But to me, my spiritual development is everything to me. I would as soon not pay for something and just meditate, because it's everything. It keeps me from killing other people. It keeps me out of trouble.
So, in essence, then,
I have to get it.
what in essence, from an overview point of view, you've expanded outside the boundaries and limitations of the vessel. Would you say that that's what you've achieved?
The groundedness. It is a sort of eerie groundedness. And if I had to roll that into one word, I would say a greater self-confidence. I feel a greater self-confidence. I feel a sense of wholeness, a sense of completeness. And there was a point in time when I felt like, as you talked about also, needing to have a partner or a spouse or a girlfriend or a boyfriend, and wanting to find someone to complete you. And a lot of times this is what we're told. You have to find your other half or your better half and all that. And I didn't want to do that. I'd had 2 marriages, and I'm like, no, don't want to do that. I'm better off by myself. I have to find my wholeness in myself. So I feel whole. I feel whole, and I wouldn't say complete because you're still growing, but I feel a sense of inner peace, a sense of wholeness, a sense of calm, a sense of groundedness. I'm able to make better decisions. I'm able to trust my awareness more, which was a big thing for me. Trust was a really, really big thing for me. So I've gotten to that place where I'm able to trust. And everything that I was, I feel like I've increased tenfold. And I feel much more ready to get back on my horse and serve, because I had pulled away from doing healing work because I became too hypersensitive to other people's energy, and it was starting to affect me. So I figured I have to pull away. Yeah. So I'm much more in a secure space to serve without fear, without worrying about their energies bleeding into me or impacting me in any way. So, this has helped me tremendously. I own myself. I come home. That's an awesome feeling to come home. Home is
Absolutely
not
fantastic.
home is not the place in the sky. Home is on the inside.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So, final question, and then I'll give you a chance to have a final say, and we'll wrap this first show up. Do you think a day will come when you won't need to do this type of work anymore, the inner work?
No, that day will never come.
No.
So long as I'm in this meat suit, this is for me like a joyride. I feel like I'm on a joyride. I think all the hard, grungy work, the digging the ditch, the getting laid out like a wet carpet, all the hard work. I feel like I've gotten past a lot of that, the painful, bitter stuff. So now I feel like a little bit like I'm coasting, and now I'm able to recognize things and allow them into my life as opposed to be struggling with it. So no, this is a joyride at this point. It's a journey. There is no destination. It's just a journey, and I'm having much more fun. And if you're having fun, why quit?
Yeah.
You don't want to quit now. It's having a lot of fun. I'm remembering who I am. I'm getting better at remembering that.
This is for those who are in the alternative community. Yes, things are difficult. We know that. But these times for us are the best times ever. We'll look back on this time and think, oh wow, I learned so much. Not only so much outside of myself, the history of the world and who's doing what to who, when, where and why, but I learned so much about myself. And the key the key to all of this is that each and every one of you who have done that has a path for the future for the rest of humanity, because they haven't. They've refused to look at anything. They've just ignored it all for a variety of reasons. And the listeners to this show and to the other shows, these are our best times, because we've learned now, we've had confirms on virtually everything we wanted to know, whether it be priests doing pedophilia, it's been confirmed now, whether it's ETs, we've already had it confirmed thousands of times. These are our best times. Yes, it's not easy, because we're still dealing with the day-to-day nonsense that we shouldn't do, but it's also, we're now recognising we don't have to. We never had to put up with this type of tyranny. We just had to stand up and say, you know what? We don't want to play your game anymore. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day. Us creating a better life. We will be the way showers for the future. All of us. Because we've done the inner work, we've done the hard work, we've looked at ourselves, we've looked at the knowledge, we've gained truth and combined it into a package to go forward for the next generation. Because the next generation are going to find out that everything they've been taught is a lie. We already know. So I want to thank you for being the first guest on this series.
Right.
You did absolutely fantastic. I'm sure the members all enjoyed this.
Thank you.
And I'm going to leave you to have your final say on what you want to say, and then I'm going to play your music for the final song. So, over to you.
My favorite song. Okay.
Now I want you to have your final say.
All right. Well, I think I personally believe to my... Yeah, that's my final thing. I'm saying I believe to the core of me that this is a slow walk. It is a nice journey. It could be scary, but it's a nice journey, because for me, more of myself, and that's the whole objective of this kind of work. I feel good being in my own bodysuit for the first time in my life. It feels really good to be in here, to be connected, to be aware of myself and others and how I affect them, how I interact with them, the choices that I make. I understand good and, for good and bad, for lack of a better word. I try not to use that. I use contrast. So I like the contrast. I'm enjoying the contrast. I'm understanding it. And I'm appreciating, actually, those goons, lack of a better word. I am appreciating them, and I'm able to forgive them now. In the beginning, it wasn't quite that easy, but I'm able to forgive them because I am so comfortable within my space. So if I could impart that's almost, in forgiving them, I could just let it go and focus on, I want a better life, I want a better world, and design it the way I would like to it.
Absolutely.
So that's my parting words.
Thank you very much, Ramona, for coming on.
Thank you.
I hope you all enjoyed the show.
Thank you all.
We'll be back next Thursday. It seems like July the 4th has already started here. There's fireworks going off again. Perhaps they realise it's the end of the show. We even have fireworks on our show. So we'll be back next Thursday with the normal show, and we'll have another one of these shows next Sunday. So from myself, Ramona, the fireworks, bye for now.